All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. The Ventana Wildlife Society's the Condor Chat, typically held on the last Thursday of the month, like it is here in August. We have a lot going on. Obviously, those who are watching closely, we're dealing with not one but now two wildfires on the Big Sur coast, which has really thrown not one, but many wrenches into our plans on top of everything else going on. The field crew is just really, really working overtime, I think, and there's just so much to share. So I appreciate you being here. If you're new, this is a great place to hear directly from the field, from those directly working with condors in the field. On a monthly basis, we give updates and share their stories. Uh, we've been doing it now since 2020 and proud to continue it now continuously all this time. Let's see. I guess we just want to jump right into it. Not only do we have the fire info, but we have nesting info and we have a surprise visitor that we want to share more about as well. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Joe Burnett, Condor Program Manager.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's been following the news and keeping up on what's happening. It's been a pretty wild month um, for myself and the crew. Big shout out to the crew that has been just going above and beyond. It's definitely been a team effort, and to our volunteers, of course. Um, Yeah, I think today's update, we're going to cover the timber fire, of course, and now we have this new fire, the Pulaski. I didn't even have time to add it to the agenda. It just popped up. That fire just started yesterday. So we're really in it here in Big Sur. Going to talk about the 340 and 868 rescue mission. We're going to give you a population update. We have some excitement. We have some rookies showing up, some new San Simeon rookies arriving, and a nesting update. And we have, of course, our live cam highlights from our viewers on explore.org have been posting some amazing photos that we're going to share. We're going to share some of Tim's amazing photos. We're going to talk about our surprise visitor. It's not a human, hint, hint. And of course, we're going to hit up questions with Mike. And again, yeah, a lot to cover today. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. Our next Condor chat, just while we're on the front end here, September 24th, 2026, Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'll post that again at the end for those that come in late. So let's get into it. Before we jump ahead, we want to welcome our newest San Simeon interns. They are on the, maybe turn off your guys' mic and yeah, get on the mic there and say hi to everyone.
Hello. My name is Emma Briscoe. I'm from Indiana, and over the last year or so, I've been trying to get my foot in the door with avian conservation. I'm an aspiring ornithologist, and I'm so lucky to be here working with the California condor now. So, yeah, very excited and happy to be here.
And I'm Caitlin Tunick. I just recently graduated from Cal State Monterey with my degree in environmental studies. I did some work with Ventana in the field throughout my undergrad, so I'm excited to be here and on the team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, so you guys just showed up this week and the training has started. So a lot to absorb. Caitlin, you've kind of been introduced to some of this stuff when you were undergrad, but we're excited to have both of you guys on. And yeah, it should be a really fun 6 month next 6 months, especially with the new rookies about to show up next week. We'll have more on that here in a bit. But yeah, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you holding the fort down there with and Darren's there too. He's hiding somewhere, but Darren's gonna, yeah, there's his hand. He's gonna help me with the update. Um, but good deal. There he is.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Yeah. So today it's myself, Joe Burnett, I'm the Condor Program Coordinator. Mike Stake here, non-linear outreach and biologist. And on the Condor biologist front, we have Darren with us. And of course, we have our newest interns, Caitlin and Emma. So pretty exciting. And yeah, I just want to recognize the rest of the team, Karen, Danae, our other biologist, Evan McGreeth, our GIS specialist, of course, Tim Huntington, who's our database designer and volunteer extraordinaire, and of course our veterinary advisor, Dr. Amy Wells. And so yeah, and with big time to all of our volunteers, our incredible team of volunteers who have been helping us throughout. So the timber fire. Can everyone see me? Is it highlighting me when I'm talking? Or is it still on Darren? Yeah, okay. It looks like it's still on Darren, but yeah, so the timber fire, this came out of nowhere, unfortunately. It started on August 8th on a Saturday evening. Just caught, they never started there's never you never know when they're gonna come and when it's gonna happen, but obviously it was a shock to us all having gone through the Dolan fire just 5 years ago, or well, actually 6 years ago this month, actually. And yeah, so it brought back a lot of those memories. And so, of course, unfortunately, we lost access to our condor sanctuary in Big Sur almost immediately. Once this fire started, it started at a spot right near about halfway on our access road. So we were cut off. And so immediately that got us thinking about not only the wild birds, but we had two captive birds, 340 and 868, who we talked about in our last condor chat, who were recuperating from lead poisoning in the Big Sur pen, and we were planning to release them in a couple weeks. And the fire hit before we could do that. Basically, essentially cutting us off from the birds, and they were going to be trapped. They were basically, there's no way to get them out of that pen unless one of us could get up there and let them out, and or a firefighter. So we started working diligently with as the fire crews came in, getting in contact with their operation and trying to find out if we could get in um, up there to let these birds out before it was too late. And so that took a while, longer than we wanted, but it did finally happen. And we initiated a rescue on August 11th. And I met up, fortunately, I got a call on the morning of August 11th from Curtis Rhodes, the CAL FIRE battalion chief. And he says, "Hey, I hear you need some help." And I was like, "Yes, we do." And he goes, "Okay, no guarantee we can get up there, but we're gonna try." And he said, the fire's backing up some of these ridges. We might have to wait for the flames to calm down and get through. So, if you're not used to driving through flames, it's definitely a little bit, puts a little bit of a lump in your throat. But knowing I was with Curtis, I really trust these firefighters. He was incredible, and obviously he had communication with the entire fire operation that we were coming up the hill and trying to get to the condors. And so, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it might be a little hairy, but I didn't know how hairy. And kind of found that out pretty quick. We came up around a turn and there was the fire, literally. You come around a turn, you kind of think, imagine what it might be like, but then you actually see it. And it's pretty intense, and he's obviously in his element, Curtis is, and I'm not. I'm not used to being around fire like most people. And that he was just basically reassuring me that, yeah, it was dangerous, but not too dangerous, obviously. And he kind of crawled us through the really bad spots. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was just pretty wild to be that close to the flames. I mean, I literally thought the paint was going to melt off his truck, but he assured me everything was okay. So I just kind of looked forward and just trusted in these great firefighters. Yeah, and the drive up, as any fire operation, you really get to see kind of behind the scenes of what happens on a fire line, and the coordination is unbelievable. And we drove through areas that had literally just burned through minutes before, like these two photos, and areas that had just been painted with retardant on the ridge, like you see the bright pink area on the right. So, just to be in that active fire line was pretty intense. And and it's apocalyptic looking. There's smoke everywhere and just ash and burnt logs, and it looks like just Armageddon just happened. And So as you're cruising through it, and meanwhile, I'm just trying to get back to the condors. And it was amazing. We came out of the fire line, the active fire area, and it was opened up, and you would, the unburned areas look like they always do. You would never know there was a fire. The smoke was blowing away from the condor sites. So when we got through the fire line, it was pretty amazing. It was sunny, beautiful. It was kind of just like this amazing day. And we got down to the condor site. This is the left photo. We had just arrived, and I was kind of doing a head count of birds around because I didn't know the last time we'd ever get up. It might be a long time before we get back up there. And of course, our main goal was these two right here to get 340, the great 340 and 868 out, two amazing birds that had really gone through the gauntlet on treatment with lead, and both had barely survived and really needed this recuperation time. And fortunately, when we did get up there, they had been had ample time to recoup. We like to pat it a little bit, but they were definitely after talking to the Oakland Zoo vets, they said they should be fine. And so we obviously were going to let them go. We didn't want to chance the fire jumping the ridge and catching these guys off guard, and God forbid, taking them out. So yeah, so we got ready. I got the door, went and slid open the door, and the huge sigh of relief when 340 got out of that pen, and 868 went shortly after him out another door. We have another door on the other side, and he chose to go a different route. I was kind of encouraging him to go the same way 340 did, but all these condors are individuals, and he's like, no, I like that door right there that you came through. So he went out through that door. And folks that were watching the live cam that day probably saw the birds going out different directions, but I could just tell, and speaking on behalf of the crew and everyone at Ventana and Kelly and Mike and everybody and Darren, and we just that weight that was lifted when these birds fly out, because they definitely stand a better chance out there on their own than obviously being in here. And they know where their home is, and it was great. They basically made it back within a few days. Both birds had made it back to Pinnacles, which is where both of them have territories set up, nesting territories. So it was really cool to watch on their GPS transmitters, which we have on the birds' wings. We were able to get data shortly after we released them and literally traced them as they went back. 340 took a little longer. He kind of hung out on the coast a couple days. 868 went back within a couple days, and I think it was on the fourth day, 340 finally made it back over, and they've both had been there since. So huge sigh of relief. And yeah, just being up there, anytime we have the opportunity to be up there, especially during a fire, it was a great chance to go do a final inspection cabin check with a CAL FIRE firefighter helping me to. Luckily, we did a lot of great fire prep this year, and he felt really good about our cabin and all of our structures having a good line of protection if the fire does burn through. So he helped me button up some last minute things around the cabin. We got rid of the propane tanks, got those away from the cabin, basic stuff like that, just to make sure we're not missing anything obvious. So it's really valuable to have Curtis up there and his input at a time like this. So yeah, that was a bonus part. We were able to get over to the cabin and, just get that last thing. And then we were like, okay, now we got to get back out of here. And what I was hearing on the radio that he was listening to was all this chatter about things are picking up, in the areas we had gone through, and now some of them were burning again. And the fire was kind of moving in a mosaic. It was hitting some areas, making runs. And so it was very unpredictable. So I was definitely nervous going back out. I was like, oh man, it might not be as, we got up we had that one area, pretty active flames. And then on the way down, I didn't know what to expect. And yeah, it was similar to what on the way up, we hit some hot areas and fortunately got through them but yeah, it was amazing to see that fire behavior, in person. It's, there's not, for what the firefighters do is just unbelievable. The fact that they're able to control it as they can, because it doesn't seem like it when you see it in person. It seems like a living organism that's going to go wherever it wants to. So, yeah, so it was pretty impressive to get through that. So we got down, you drive by, like, here I am driving by a piece of fire equipment that got torched. It was really serious. So I just thought it was great that Cal Fire and Forest Service were that invested in the condors to get us up there, because they definitely took a risk in getting us up there. So I can't thank them enough, because I didn't realize it until I saw some of this damage and go, man, they're really pushing it for us for these condors to get up there. So yeah, pretty darn cool. And yeah, mission accomplished. And we got lucky. Like we definitely had a lot of help, and just so glad. Just want a huge thank you to Cal Fire and all those firefighters out there putting it on the line, to protect the Big Sur community. Our hearts go out to the Big Sur community right now, because they're just getting literally displaced by this fire. Right now, it's actually moving back down into the Big Sur proper area as we speak, and they're evacuating, Pfeiffer State Park, and it's the real deal. It's definitely having an impact. So our hearts go out to all the businesses, all the people that support us down there, and it's just such a great community. It's just heartbreaking to see them going through this, and yeah. So obviously, we want the community to make it through. We want the condors to make it through safe, and big shout out to these firefighters that are out there fighting it.
Hey, Joe, it uh, seems like it was kind of a long day for you. Can you give some perspective on how far you traveled, how long it took? I guess there's some interest in really how close is the fire to that pin? It's like, how far did you
Yeah,
have to
no, that's
drive?
great. That's good questions. Yeah, probably should have given that detail, but yeah, so I started in the late morning. I think I met up with him around 11, and it took us about 3 hours to get up there, which is normally about an hour drive. And because we were stopping, there'd be points where there was burning. We'd have to wait for it to burn and calm down enough where we could drive through. There'd be a burning log that would roll down off the hill and block the road, and we'd have to move it. It was just we were baby stepping up, and just he was constantly on the radio waiting to get clearance to go into different areas, because there's crews stationed all on the ridge. So it was pretty, the whole way. I thought at any point we could get turned around. So it was about 3 hours up, and then probably spent a couple hours at the site, releasing the birds, going over to the cabin, and then we got down, but we didn't get down until dark. And I think these days it's getting dark around 8:30, 8:30. And and he was just in the middle of his shift. So I was heading home, and Curtis was like, "Oh yeah, I'm on for another 12 hours." I was like, "Wow." I mean, these guys are just unbelievable. So they're just they're just on a different level when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, it was a long day, and it was, I kind of expected it. Definitely adrenaline was rolling, like for any of us would have been in my shoes. You definitely are feeding off the adrenaline a little bit, and I just felt that huge sense of relief just getting them out of the pen, because I think that's not only for everyone watching, but for all of us that work with the birds. That's your worst nightmare, is to have two birds trapped in a pen with a fire bearing down on them. I mean, that's just, you wouldn't want any animal, any life to go that way. So yeah, in terms of where the fire's at, when the fire started, you just never know what it's going to do. And luckily, the south part of the fire that would actually be moving the direction of the condor site is moving slower than the north side. The north side is what's kind of the northwest side is what's moving really quick up towards, Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park, up over Mount Manual right now. Luckily, it's got a little more resistance going to the south, and it's slowed down. But what they're hoping to do is hold it on the ridge and not let it spill over to where the condor sanctuary is. And they've done that in past fires. They've succeeded in doing that for the most part, but it can, if conditions change, that fire could jump at any time. So it's probably right now within, by the way, the condor flies, God, probably 2-3 miles. So that sounds pretty far, but it's not when you're talking about fire. That can change really quickly. So, there's silver linings to every fire. And right now we're just day to day. We just don't know what's going to happen. But either way, we're not going to have access to that site, to our Big Sur site, for quite a while, until the fire goes out. And, that literally this fire could go. We've seen it with past fires. they will burn until that first rain we get, in October, typically in Central California. So, we've had fires burn from, start in July and burn all the way to October. So it's just going to be a strain on us and help trying to manage the birds. But, we've been strategizing, we have, Emma and Caitlin here helping us down at San Simeon. We're going to really shift a lot of what we're doing operationally down to San Simeon, and we have the new rookies coming in. So we're going to kind of consolidate down there. We have a really good chunk of the flock that comes down there regularly to feed at those sites. So yeah. And we're also seeing the birds that are staying in Big Sur are doing fine. They're finding food on their own already. I get reports all the time. They're avoiding the yeah, there's a lot of air traffic, as you can imagine. That's probably our biggest concern. And obviously for a helicopter pilot, they don't want to have a run-in with a condor because it's collateral. They're big enough to where they would take down a helicopter. So we've been briefing helicopter pilots, letting them know to keep their head on a swivel when they're doing some of these more aggressive, retardant drops, water drops around in these really tight areas. So they get it, and they've definitely spotted the birds while they're flying. So for the most part, I think the condors see it as these helicopters and these airplanes. It's just bigger birds, and they back off. And obviously, it looks like they get close sometimes, but for the most part, a lot of these birds have been through this before, too. That's not their first rodeo with a fire, so they know how to navigate it. And again, we're just trying to keep Forest Service and Cal Fire as informed as possible about their movements. We've given them access to the Condor GPS data so they can have an idea of where the birds are going each day, where the fire's moving, and they actually have direct access to that data as well. So yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely shifted gears for us as a crew. And again, we've gone through it in the past, and I think that experience is what's helping us out. And I think that experience is what helped us get 340 and 868 out. And yeah, I'm just really, really thankful that we were able to get those two birds out. That was pretty darn stressful.
Yeah, a lot of heroes here, and I'm interested in Curtis. It's not his first rodeo with fire, but his first rodeo with condors.
Yes.
Can you say about a word about what his reaction to his assignment that day? How did you feel?
He was excited. He said, "Hey, you the condor? I get to go see." But he was like I was about fire. I was apprehensive about fire. He was the same about the condor. He's like, how close are we going to get to him? And I was like, and how big are they? Here he would be asking me questions. There'd be flames flying up over the truck, and he'd be asking me questions like, "Hey, how big's the wingspan of a condor?" And I'd go, you worried about that flame?" It's 9.5 feet. Watch out for that. He's like, "Oh no, we're good." And it was a really cool interaction that way. But he felt really lucky to be able to get up there. He was really excited to help the birds. He had seen him in the wild on other fires over at Pinnacles over the years, but he'd always seen him from afar. And so when he got down to the release pen, I showed him what we do and how we've been releasing and bringing the birds back. And I told him the story of 348-68 about lead poisoning, and he was, again, like I've heard, it was a teachable moment just about using non-lead. He has friends that hunt, and so we just kind of went full circle on all that, on all things condor. So it was cool to kind of have, I was pegging him with questions about the fire, the science of fire and fighting fire, and he was hitting me with all the condor stuff. So it was a great exchange. But yeah, really great guy, really dedicated to his job, and you can't help but identify with somebody that's that passionate about what they do. So it's pretty cool. It was a good exchange. So everyone knows we have the nest cam in the redwood. So the fire happened pretty close to where our live streaming nest cam is. Obviously that nest isn't active right now, but we're hoping it to be active 652 and 550. We're hoping that pair decide to nest there this coming winter. And we heard from the caretaker for the property that knows where our cam is and what tree. He sent this photo on the right. And luckily, when the fire came down that ridge, as it got closer to the coast, there was a fog layer and it laid down the fire. So the fire burned, but it burned under the canopy. It didn't get up into the redwoods. It didn't crown out. So he sent this picture going, "Hey, I think the nest tree is okay." And yeah, when he said it, I confirmed it was. And obviously, anything on the ground, he said, your nest cam cable is probably gone. And he goes, but the tree and the cam are probably fine. So we're going to work with explore.org once things calm down and I get clearance to go up there, ideally before nest season, we'll go up and we'll get this cam up and running again. But yeah, I'm just glad, really honestly, the cams can be replaced. I was just really thankful this nest tree was still there. It's such a great tree. Obviously, it's seen fire before. I don't know how many fires that nest tree has probably survived over the last few hundred years, but it actually was formed by fire, which is pretty wild. And luckily, this fire just kind of skirted underneath. And this tree will live to fight another day, and hopefully house a pair for a nice condor nest and a nice egg. So yeah, that was some good news to report.
So is the
And
burn that we're seeing on that trunk, is that from an older fire or this?
yeah, that's from an older fire. I believe that was the Basin Complex fire in 2008 that burned that tree. So that, yeah, it just shows you that, these redwoods really wear fire history on their sleeve, like they wear it on their sleeve. The bark, you can see so many past burns they've survived. And and that they're naturally built to withstand fire for the most part, as long as it's not a super intense fire. They're thick bark. They're just designed to withstand wildfire, which is pretty amazing. And even when they burn, if they burn and create cavities, they usually regenerate and stay alive. So, redwoods we could give a whole Condor chat just talking about redwoods, what an amazing tree, not only one of the largest trees on the planet, but how they've evolved to, coexist with wildfire is pretty amazing. And, and obviously the relationship they now have with condors, it's just such a perfect, nexus, for the redwoods and condors and fires to come together. They all kind of indirectly benefit from the fire, which is pretty interesting. All right, our population, unfortunately, it dropped by one. We're down to 105. We were at 106 last month. We lost another great bird, 921 Whiskey Papa. We are still in the process of trying to recover them. It's Darren's been working his butt off trying to get into where 921 is. It's a tough area. And we know based on the mortality signal that we're picking up, we got from the air, similar to what we encountered with a Nico. We have a similar situation with 921. And yeah, we haven't given up on finding this bird. We still have a couple more routes to exhaust before we give up. But yeah, and we still have a missing bird. We still have Mike's bird that's missing, as well as 995 Tish and 1042 Rachel. Unfortunately, we had to add Mike's bird recently. That bird disappeared right around the same time 921 did, and we found 921 on an aerial survey flight, but we did not find 566. And since then, they've gone up again, and they still haven't found Mike's bird. So yeah, we reached out to the Southern California thinking maybe he headed down there, but they have not picked him up. So yeah, it's not looking great for Mike's bird right now. So yeah, no, it's been a rough year. Obviously, you see that the number of deaths there, that list is growing. And yeah, it's not what we want to see, but again, it just emphasizes how important all this work, the non-lead outreach work is, the work that Mike leads. And yeah, it's just, getting the ammo out, getting folks to switch. It really will pay dividend on the population surviving into the future. So yeah, we got our work cut out for us, but yeah, it's part of it. It's not what we like to see, but it is, we do have to deal with it. Yeah, and Darren, please jump in. Just talking about 921. Yeah, you knew this bird as well as anybody.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, again, kind of a theme that we're seeing with these mortalities is, just another young bird, like in Condor age. He was 8 years old, had just reached adulthood, and kind of that sort of like just getting into like breeding activity, breeding season. Like he was just kind of on the cusp of establishing territory, potentially pairing up with someone, and yeah, we just see this far too often. But yeah, we released him, I think, in 2020. And yeah, he had I think he was one of the birds that was actually flown to us for release. I think he actually came. I was like, so Lighthawk, the folks we partner with to locate missing birds, they helped fly him and another bird that was released with him, 904 Romeo, flew them down, I think from uh, Oregon or Boise. But yeah, they flew down to Paso Robles where we picked them up, and we added them into some birds we already had in the flight pen down here. And it was cool to see, just how quickly like an already established cohort would welcome in a new bird like Whiskey Papa at that time. And yeah, after release, he really thrived. He was pretty quickly like became a part of the flock, was spending time with a lot of other birds, especially other members of his cohort, and kind of had established some territory down here in the southern part of the Central California Flocks Range. Had spent a lot of time around San Simeon and the lakes like Lake Nacimiento, Lake San Antonio, and he traveled really all over. We'd get his signal or see him up in Big Sur and over at Pinnacles and north of Pinnacles too. But I think most of his detections were down here in San Simeon. So yeah, we were really looking forward to seeing sort of what was next for him. But yeah, gone too soon. And like Joe said, we're still searching for him. We have a good idea of where he is, but it's a really remote and rugged area. So being able to get out to it just takes a lot of effort. And so we're still making plans for that. Still trying to get out there to locate where he is. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to recover him soon.
Yeah, big shout out to 400 Liggett for coming out and giving us access to some of those areas on the base. That's always a big help.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, his legacy will live on. He definitely was a big contributor to the flock, and we'll miss him for sure. So the rookies coming from all over the place.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be fun to have rookies in the San Simeon pen again, and yeah, just all the anticipation that comes with that for release day when it comes. And yeah, stoked for Caitlin and Emma to experience that because they'll be the primary caretakers for the five birds we're gonna get. And for the next month or more until they're released. So yeah, really things are about to um, what is it? The phrase "rubber's about to meet the road," and
Yeah,
with
exactly.
these birds, yeah. So yeah, we'll really get rolling, and Caitlin and Emma will really get into the meat of their internship next week once we get these birds down to San Simeon. But yeah, it's going to be quite the effort. So we have birds coming from yeah, all over. Mostly Oregon Zoo and the World Center for Birds of Prey in Boise, but also have one bird coming from San Diego as well. So next week, Kara and then Kayla and Emma are driving up to Truckee to meet with folks from Oregon Zoo and the World Center for Birds of Prey to pick up the birds, and then they'll bring them down to San Simeon over a couple days, and we'll let them into the pen. And then I think Fish and Wildlife Service is going to meet us with a bird from San Diego. They're going to come up to San Simeon, and we'll get the bird from them there, I believe. But yeah, so in total, us and Pinnacles National Park, we're all going to go up to Truckee to get our birds, and so we'll have the first five listed here will come to us, 1331 and 1332 who are both males, and then 1333 and 1339 who are both females, and then 1345, one more male. We'll get those first five birds listed here. And then Pinnacles will get the other five, the bottom five here, 1347 and 1352, who are a male and coming from Oregon Zoo. And then 1354, 1367, and 1368 who are coming from World Center for Birds of Prey. So, yeah, it's quite the effort and collaboration. I think this is a pretty good example of the collaboration of the whole Condor project and its existence, just kind of showing how many parties and people work together all over the country and outside the country too, to make this project happen. And yeah, it culminates in things like this where we can get birds from captive breeding facilities all over to release into the wild here in San Simeon, California.
Well stated. Yes, takes a village. But yeah, I love seeing all the arrows. That distance that from Portland all the way to San Diego, that's like most of the West Coast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of years we'll have usually, I remember one year we had them all from LA Zoo. This is one of the rare years we don't have any birds coming from LA Zoo. And then every once in a while we get these batches where we'll get a big mixed batch from different places. And again, that's driven by the genetics, and placement of birds are driven by the genetic, you know, who the birds' parents are and where they put them in these different flocks where birds are already at. They're trying to mix things up on that front too. So that drives a lot of where we end up getting birds from in the zoos. So it's good when they mix it up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, nest update.
Yeah, jumping into nesting. So we still have 3 active nests, 2 up in Big Sur, and then 1 down here in San Simeon. So the 2 Big Sur nests, that's 190 and 745, and their chick 1425, and then 317 and 665, and their chick 1424. Both of these chicks are due to fledge. Looks like their expected fledge date is the same date, early October, October 7th. Yeah, these are nests that we've been keeping a really close eye on with the timber fire. They're both currently okay, but the fires, it can sort of branch out in any direction at any time. So we're keeping an eye on it, and they are potentially still in the path of the fire, but so far so good. Um, and then, yeah, this nest we have down here in San Simeon, we have good indicators that this chick is older now because we've been seeing 758 and 936 kind of a lot around the same time. They're not taking turns as much going back or spending time around the nest. We're just seeing them together a lot more. So that's a good indication that their chick 1455 is older and doing well. And that chick is still has a ways to go until fledge. It looks like early November. November 11th is when we're expecting that, like around when we're expecting their chick to fledge. So yeah, we're keeping a close eye on all these nests, and hopefully, especially for the Big Sur nests, in a little over a month, we'll see better indicators that their chicks have fledged the nest, and then a little after that, hopefully see that 1455 is fledged too, which I'm excited for that for Caitlin and Emma if they get to see an untagged recently fledged bird show up at the San Simeon site. We haven't had that. Haven't had that in a while. It's been a while since we've had a chick fledge from down here, so that'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, 1004 was the last one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of fires, that bird we lost in the Dolan fire, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Great bird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, the next guy kind of speaks to this, but I've been actually just getting asked a lot, like, is this what is this, 3 chicks? That seems kind of low. It is definitely one of our lower years, but it's still a good year. If we can get 3 chicks, even for all of Central California out. And yeah, I put this slide together. This is looking at the last 20 years of nesting in Central California. And there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to get too into the weeds, but I did want to just point out, how many eggs the birds in Central California have laid. It's quite a bit, 165 eggs, 104 have hatched. That does include foster eggs that we introduced in the early part of the nesting when the birds first started nesting, and when we were researching eggshell thinning in the flock, we were swapping out eggs to make sure they were okay. But nonetheless, if you include those eggs, the hatch success is pretty high, almost 60%. There you see 63%. If you exclude those, it drops it a bit to 49%, but still 50% or more is definitely good. That's good hatch rate. And then the number that have fledged is almost 50% too. 74, 165 eggs laid. So that's pretty awesome in terms of we're right on track. And I was just impressed with over the last 20 years, Average number of chicks fledged is 4. But if you look at the last 5 years, it's 7. So we've really bumped up. It doesn't include 2026. So when you look at the bigger picture, you can even look on the graph here. The green bars are the chicks, and you can see 2024 on the end there, we had 9 chicks. And then our biggest nest year where we had the most eggs laid was 2019, 14 eggs, which is pretty amazing. So you do get fluctuations. And I think, this year was, I think unusually a little bit lower because what we've talked about earlier in our population update, the number of lead deaths. And unfortunately, a lot of those lead deaths were pairs, that impacted pairs or took out one of the adults from a pair. And so I think that had a big impact on this year's nesting numbers. I think Darren can agree, just especially at Pentacles, they really got hit hard, unfortunately. So yeah, again, the flock will bounce back. We have a lot of younger birds coming of age. Every year we have new birds coming of age, new pairs. So we think next year is going to be a really big bounce back year. So pretty excited. And yeah, we're just excited, like Darren said, the San Simeon bird fledging and, a lot of super positive things happening. But you're going to have years like that. It's not going to be perfect every year. You're going to have off years, especially when you're contending with lead. But what the flock has shown is that great resilience. They always bounce back. So yeah, we just got to keep fighting for them. And this is the coolest news. Condors 161. A lot of you have never even heard of this bird, but she was released back in 1997. I'll never forget releasing, that dates us, Kelly, but when we released her with 4 other awesome birds, that was a great cohort. That was 161, 164, 167, 170, and the great 171 Traveler. That was the superstar cohort. They were the ones the first ones out that kind of set the stage. They were the the legacy birds that kind of had to cut their teeth and learn a lot of stuff the hard way. And I just remember she was right from the gates. We knew she was special because she was immediately making the biggest flights of any bird. She was definitely similar to Traveler in that she was covering some ground pretty quickly. And so we weren't too shocked when she took off to Southern California. So just a real quick overview. She was born April 10th, 1997. She's 29 years old. We released her in Big Sur at the Big Sur pen December 12th, 1997. And at that time, that was before we started releasing them older. We released her at eight months old, which is crazy, but we were learning, but she did great. Now we wait till at least a year and a half. But that's what an exceptional release group they were. I mean, the fact that we released them in 8 months and they did so incredibly well is a testament just to how incredible those birds were. And so of course she hung out in Big Sur, for up until about 2004. I was able to dig up these old photos of her on the coast. There's one of her in 2001, her flying around in 1999. She was a regular. She was part of the crew. She was one of the leaders for, every time we released birds. At that time, they were all called the blue tags, that blue tag cohort. They all had blue tags and they definitely were the leaders of the flock, guiding the flock, all throughout those years. And in 2004 and about 2003, well, like 2002, 2003, a lot of those blue tags started flying to Southern California and they were meeting up with that flock down there, that population. And that was really cool. And we expected that to see mixing between the two populations. They're about 250 miles south of here, but for a condor, we found out that's not a big deal. And they would go down there, hang out for a few weeks, come back. And we're like, oh, good, they're coming back. And then eventually around 2003, we started noticing 161 wasn't coming back with everybody. We're like, uh-oh. And not uh-oh in a bad way, but just, obviously you want anywhere she goes with condors and does well, we're happy, but we were going to miss her. we saw it happening. And then finally in 2004, she paired up with their most dominant male in Southern California, 107. And, not only that, she picked the most dominant male and successfully nested with him. She sired 5 chicks with 107, and then he passed away. I believe he died of lead actually. And then she repaired with Condor 509, and she produced 5 chicks with 509. So she's produced 10 chicks in the wild. I mean, she's up there with our Central California equivalent would be 190 Redwood Queen. So yeah, just really amazing. And why she came back 22 years later, I can't, I've been working with these birds for 30 years. I have no idea. I can't tell you. It was on a whim. Maybe she saw the smoke. Maybe she got bored with Southern California. I don't know. But she just needed to branch out a little bit. I don't know. But we were talking about it as a crew. It's really random. We don't really know. And but it's cool. I love that stuff. I love when the birds, they always surprise us. And that's why I love working with them, is you just never know. They're unpredictable and they do stuff that is just so amazing like this. And she decided to come back. And Darren, is she there right now? Is she down there at San Simeon still?
I think we were picking up her signal yesterday. But yeah, nothing yet today. It has been a little drizzly here today, so we haven't done as much tracking. But yeah, she could potentially still be around. But even then, I mean, she was just here yesterday, so she's probably
Yeah, and it was cool watching her on the cam, and she was swinging her weight around because we got a lot of young birds down there on San Simeon, and she was definitely letting them know who's boss. She's probably pulling one of those. Do you know who I am?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
from here. They're probably, who are you?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe she came here and realized like there just thought there was like too much rebellion or something from the younger birds, and it's like this is not how you're supposed to act. And just and had to
Yeah,
throw
so
down.
I mean, that was just a special treat for, at least for me. I hadn't seen her I'd seen her in different times. I've gone down to Southern California to hang out with that field crew, and we're either doing something with them and I'd see her again. But it'd been a while. I literally seen her in Big Sur and San Simeon. It'd been 20 plus, 22 years. So it was just pretty amazing. A real treat. We don't know if she's gonna stick around or go back. I'm guessing she'll probably go back to her territory, and she was just on a little summer vacation. But who knows? She might come back and you know get back to her coastal roots. Who knows? She hasn't been to the coast in a while. She's like, oh yeah, I forgot how nice this is. So maybe, I don't know, but still, nonetheless, very cool. Yeah, you guys got any more you want to pipe in?
Well, for years I've been calling her a defector because she left our flock, but I'll take it all back. I'm glad to see her here.
She wasn't the only one. 192, another Big Sur female, she went down and nested with one of the original wild birds, AC7. I mean, sorry, AC9. Um, and yeah, she produced, I forgot how many chicks, but was really successful. And unfortunately, we lost her. I don't know if we ever confirmed it was lead, but anyway, she died way too right in her prime.
But
And
it really is neat to see how far these birds move from flock to flock. I mean, we're talking hundreds of miles, and just goes to show these birds can really cover a lot of ground.
yeah, I mean, speaking of travel, I remember she did that flight. She left Big Sur, and within about 3 days, she was up over Mount Whitney in the Southern Sierras, and flying up over the tallest peak in the Sierra Nevada. That was just hard to get your head wrapped around. And then she was back in a couple days. It was just pretty wild. That was in the early days when we first started putting the GPS on. We couldn't believe she had made that trip. And yeah, and the same, people ask about how soon before they connect up with Northern California, which is, a little further. And there's definitely a gauntlet they have to go through to get up there, but it's definitely possible. When you look at in South America, Andean condors are obviously very close relative of the California condor. They travel equivalent distances all the time. So we know it's in their DNA that they can do it, and eventually they probably will. So that's part of the exciting part. When we recover this population to its full extent, it'd be really awesome to really see how these birds move across the landscape, and probably on much bigger scales down the road. I'm guessing. Yeah, we got some August cam highlights. This was, oh, Jess 828. Thank you, Jess. She's always posting incredible pictures. This is a nice shot of an untagged, two big tagless wings, um, which is really what our goal is to, one day be able to take these tags off, once we can get past some of these mortality threats like lead poisoning. That's the end all goal. This is what we're working towards, is having a flock that's completely untagged and, truly wild. So, yeah, anytime you see an untagged out in the field, I think I speak for everyone. It's a treat. Yeah, it's almost like the ultimate gift for a condor biologist to really see that magic they are. I mean, there's, just to see such a perfect, bird, perfect feathers, just streamlined. They stick out when they're out there, not just because they don't have tags, because they're so clean. They're just like these precise, it's just hard to describe, but we all know out in the field, we're all like, you see them a mile away, you're like, that's an untag, it's just right there. And they're so clean.
Yeah, it's just like it's really, yeah. I think there's a lot that gets wrapped up in it because we have this sort of like work objective to tag the birds and get like a transmitter and tag on them so we can know who they are and follow them around. But on the flip side, you see kind of as you described, just like how like pristine and wild they are by being untagged, and I feel like every time I see an untagged, I'm like, maybe this one we let go. We'll
Yeah.
just but because it is just so cool. Like, it's like this is how we want them all to be one day. And so seeing one just makes you imagine like seeing all the condors we do, like just imagine seeing all the condors on the live cams without any tags. Just
Yeah.
like getting that view,
But
just
I think it's a good reminder for all of us when we're out there, like that's the goal, kind
yeah.
of, people ask like, God, how do you keep pushing forward sometimes? And it's like, that's it. When
Yeah.
you see the end of the rainbow, that's the end of that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a wild shot. I mean, the cams are amazing. I know everybody watches them, but I'm equally just blown away by the cams because, and especially the Explore viewers, they really watch them super close and catch cool stuff like this of, nine Mersh and, in 956 watching the sky crane. I don't know if everyone's seen a sky crane helicopter in person. It's one of the largest helicopters on the planet, and they carry these huge loads of water and dump them on the fires, but it's obviously not as close. The image makes it look closer than it is, but it's still pretty wild. And you can see the condors checking it out like, whoa, look at that big bird. Like
Yeah.
they're both checking it out. They're like, wow, that thing's bigger than us. They're not
Mhm.
used to seeing stuff bigger than them in the skies around there. So pretty amazing shot. Big shout out to the Explorer viewers for catching that one.
Yeah, that's a crazy shot. Gotta just save that one for forever.
Yeah,
Go, go, going in all future presentations.
for sure. Yeah, and this must have been at night. This is when that's where they're setting up the fire line to keep it from coming into our canyon, into the Condor Sanctuary. So this was fire trucks at night moving up and down. They're setting up a major fire break on that ridge up behind the roost snag. This is the roost cam view. So just for folks to orientate themselves, but that's where they're trying to hold it. That's where it's going to get really close when it burns up to that point on it. It's not quite there yet, but it's coming up on this area. And this is where it's going to really make or break whether they can hold it. And again, in past fires, they've held it at this spot. So we're, again, it's day to day, but we're just pulling for the firefighters and pulling that the weather cooperates and, all the things have to align. So, yeah, because when Mother Nature, you kind of don't have a lot of control with these fires. This Where's the condor? Oh, peekaboo. There he is. It's such a great. This is the fun part about watching the cams is
hmm
you'll be watching like, oh, there's no birds around. This one of the birds will poke its head out.
hmm Yeah, just like one of the many examples of how they become so endearing so quickly is that they always do stuff like this. They yeah, just like
Yes.
peek around a corner or yeah, we were
With the
watching.
fuzz. Look at the fuzz on its beak.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Classic juvie.
hmm
Cracks me up. Yeah, and then took some amazing photos. He was down there right after the fire started and before they shut the roads down and got some really amazing photos. I just wanted to show. This was, the smoke in the redwoods, and then, this is kind of what they're doing. This is the retardant. I mean, literally these big lines of retardant going up the ridge. It's pretty dramatic. And again, they're coming at it from all angles. They're using these ridge lines to kind of box it in, and yeah, it's a crazy effort. So yeah, and this is everyone that knows Pico Blanco and Big Sur. This is a hazy view. This is what most days in Big Sur are like these days, and usually a lot thicker than this. So yeah, again, our hearts go out to the Big Sur community that are going through this. It's rough. And yeah, we just hope everyone gets through it okay. And these another incredible picture by Tim. Again, I love the shots like this one on the left that really show you the depth of the eye of a young condor right there. I mean, you can really see almost into it. It almost has a three-dimensional look to it there. But that amber, this is the classic eye color of a young bird, and that it will turn a blood red as they get to adulthood. And yeah, and the shot on the right, that's a cool shot of eucalyptus, an adult, and that's I bet you, I'm guessing that's probably one of their offspring with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great shots.
always enjoy. What was that? Sorry, dude.
Oh, just say great shots. These are
Yeah.
yeah, just more Tim excellence here.
Yeah, that one on the left, I could just
Yeah.
look at that photo for a long time and read into it. It reads
Mm-hmm.
like a book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that gets us to the Save the Condor campaign, right, Kelly? You got an update on that front?
Yeah, well, last year we kicked it off for the first time to Save the Condor campaign 2025, and we thankfully reached that goal and even had some multi-year pledges. And I want to take this moment to thank Jean Brienne Weiss and also Doris Day and Terry Melcher Foundation and many, many others to kick it off, and it enabled us to get a little bit of a head start in this year, 2026. And then we had a successful fundraising event in Carmel Valley, which also moved us closer. And so I'm happy to say that we're already 44% of the goal of trying to raise 750,000 from private support. And of course, it's desperately needed dealing with all this work going on in the field. I mean, we're the ones with the boots on the ground, the hands on the condors, literally, and trapping and treating avian influenza, uh, the lead. The lead treatment, the lead outreach, all so critically important. Not to mention, of course, just the release of new birds from zoos out into the wild. But that's where it all begins. That's where all the work really starts, and it's happening year round. Uh, so please take a look at the website, take a look at what we're doing, and see how you can help. If you can help financially, this is a wonderful time to do it. You can check it out at Donate to Condor Recovery on our website. And so I know we want to get into some questions, and we're already right at the time. So I'll just go ahead and stop there. But, please, if you have any questions about making a gift, whether you have a donor advised fund or you want to kick something out of your retirement or anything that's a little special, that's not easily handled by our website, please reach out to me personally. And thank you so much. You really are the ones that allow all this work to move forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and obviously connect with us on social media. We're always providing updates, especially around the fire right now. And subscribe to the Full Crop. Kelly provides updates too. But yeah, YouTube, we have content there, and Facebook, and yeah, whatever your platform you prefer. Just jump on. We definitely have a lot of updates. All right, that gets us to questions.
Yeah, let's just bring up a few quick ones. Joe, there's some interest in the idea of a remote controlled release for the pen door. Was there a time where you were wishing that you had that? Is there some interest in that idea or some concerns about using that at such a remote site?
Yeah, no, that's come up with all the field crews, and now with technology getting there, like you can turn a light on in your house off and on with Wi-Fi. And now that we have Starlink because of the cams, that's definitely a possibility. But whatever mechanism we put on for a emergency door, we were even saying it might be separate than the release door, just literally an emergency door for that purpose only. It's not mixing in with our other mechanisms there because and then of course you have to build something robust enough to put up with Big Sur's winters and summers and the birds themselves. And so yeah, that's something definitely that I've talked to the other field crews about. We've talked about on our crew, God, that especially with 34868, we're like, God, I wish I could just push a button and open that door. So, you know, think of a garage door opener or something you can remotely open from from work before you get home or something, or you forget to shut the door. That's probably how it would look. It'd be something like a remote garage door opener type thing. But yeah, that's a great question, and it's definitely on our minds. As an addition, even on for the San Simeon pen, similar thing could happen down there. We're gonna have birds in captivity for the next few months, and or at least the next couple months. And we had the chimney fire in 2016 that we had to evacuate the release birds down there. And before that pen got, luckily that pen didn't burn, but the fire got within about 100 feet of it. So um, we were glad we had the birds out of there because the smoke alone probably would have, could have killed them. Yeah, that was a good example. But yeah, definitely on our minds if we could figure it out. We definitely had the techs there to do it, the technology's there to do it. So yeah, I think it's definitely gonna happen.
Hey, Darren, you've been monitoring these condors during the fire. Have you noticed any potential effects of the smoke on these birds? Do you know how the smoke might be affecting them, or maybe any behavioral changes that the birds have made because of the fire?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I don't have anything like too specific to share. I think just something we noticed is that they tend to avoid like the heavy smoke areas. Just anything that they could kind of see as like potentially hazardous, and like smoke, so like from the inhalation and also just from the visibility standpoint, like that reduced visibility, the condors don't really want to mess with that. So they tend to avoid areas of heavy smoke. And I think even just like the hot spots on the ground, like they can see that and tell that something's wrong, that it's not something they want to be near. So mostly we're just seeing avoidance and haven't seen too much like interaction with them like among the fire or in the smoke or anything like that. So yeah, mostly I'd say they're just trying to avoid it and still spending time on the coast. We haven't seen like any big movements out of there, out of Big Sur or anything, but they're just staying in the pockets where the fire isn't actively burning.
Well, we've talked a lot about fire and lead. We haven't talked much about H-pi. And the question, Joe, is could any of the recent condor deaths be somewhat associated with H-pi, even though there has been a vaccine? Could there be any effects there?
They're looking for that. So when we get any deceased condor and we're able to recover it, and we send it to Fish and Wildlife Service has a lab up in Ashland, a forensics lab, and that's part of the necropsy is because H-pi is on the scene. They know the back history of whether a bird was vaccinated, full vaccinated, or at least got one shot. They know the full histories, and they obviously if they have a way, if they can test it, they'll test to see if it was either that was the cause of death or was it exposed in the past. But we have not had any condors turned in, at least in Central California, that have come back as H-pi as the cause of death. Again, all of those were in Arizona. Um, knock on wood that it stays that way. But and it sounds like Arizona's been since their 2023, that unfortunate when they lost 21 birds pretty quickly to H-pi. That was obviously devastating to that flock. But since then, things have quieted down, and they obviously confirmed those birds died of H-pi, but we have not had any other confirmed deaths outside of those since 2023. So that's actually pretty good news. And what we're thinking is we think there's a chance that vaccine we gave definitely worked, or at least gave them some kind of protection because we know H. pies around here. In different other bird populations, we know it's in the waterfowl in the Sacramento Valley and areas really close to where the condors overlap. So we're hoping that the vaccine definitely gave the birds some protection, and we don't have any documented deaths from H. pie yet.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah, you reported that the population here in Central California is 110. What is the total condor population in the wild?
Well, it's actually 105 now.
I'm sorry, 105.
Yeah, the total in the wild, I believe it's it's closer to 350, right?
I think it's so as of the end of 2025, it was 392 in the wild.
392, so almost 400. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the captive flock is a little over 200, I believe, or 250.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Because the total population is 650, including captive birds, I think.
Much
Yeah.
much better than when it was 21 birds when I was in sixth grade back in 1981. So I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
numbers that are at least triple digits. I'll let you bring it home, Joe, but maybe if you can comment on one more question, and that is, do you have any particulars about a release date for the rookies? I know we got the Condor chat coming up September 24th, but any indication on when the releases might be? And then I'll let you take us home from there.
Yeah, I think we're looking right now. We're kind of obviously the fire is on our minds, and with the Plaskett fire, it's still pretty far from San Simeon, but we're kind of keeping an eye on that. I mean, the original plan was late October, early November for a release this year, typical with past releases. And so, yeah, we're still trying to stay on track with that, but I think it's hard to really pin down right now until we get a better idea of what's going on, what's going to happen with these fires. And we just hope for an early rain in October, really, or even in late, a September rain would be unbelievable. But typically we get our first rain to kind of kick off the winters in October. So to kick off the winter in October. So that's kind of hopefully it'll be an earlier arrival than that, So just cross your fingers, because otherwise I think the fire will continue to burn. There's not just so much fuel, and they're just trying to kind of keep it boxed in at this point. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question. But yeah, again, thanks everybody for tuning in to the chat. And yeah, we'll keep you posted, through social media and different updates. And obviously next Condor chat will have more information on the fire, but a lot's going to happen between now and then. So definitely, make sure you're checking us on social media or signing up for our newsletter, for the newsletter. And anything else you want to add, Kelly?
No, I think that nails it. The cams are a great way to stay involved in the Condor chats and social media, and definitely our full crop.
Yeah, the full crop. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for mentioning all that. And thank you everyone for being here today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for all the support. It's definitely been well received, and just hope we get through this. Thanks, everyone.